So I claim to be a world builder, so let me show you what I'm creating and my thought process. Hopefully, this will be a case study to help you build your world. Oya, kumusta? Joe here, a world builder, an OC artist, and today, in this very day, I'm finally talking about my fictional universe I call the Kyroverse. So first off, why the name? The name Kyroverse is just dedicated to an old favorite character of mine named Kairos. He is not that special in this grand universe, but he was one of my first main protagonists in one of this world's storylines. This is of course a name that I thought of when I was young and maybe change it as I'm really bad with naming and I usually don't notice it. Yeah, thanks to my friend for telling me which names are awful. For the naming of your universe, however, I suggest you to not think so hard about it. You can base it from your name like Lovecraft, or you can base it around a central idea of your world, kinda like how the SCP verse centers around the SCP Foundation. You can base it from characters like the Whoverse, which centers around Doctor Who, or even abstract central themes like hope and love. I don't really have any examples for those, but I bet that there's an existing universe named after abstract central themes. So next is what kind of universe am I making? What is the structure of the Kyroverse? Is it soft fantasy like Harry Potter, epic fantasy like The Lord of the Rings, or more on the galaxy themed worlds like Star Wars? Well, not really. I don't know if there's any proper term for this type of world, but I would call it a multiversal fantasy, meaning that it's a universe that involves different planes of existence. The closest example I can give is the Planetscape universe. I think that's a world that's tied up to D&D, or the DC universe, which actually, the map of the DC multiverse is one of my key inspirations for creating Kyroverse in this format. Now, in any type of world you're building, my advice is bigger does not mean better. That's what I thought of back then, having a case of what I would call a Voyager syndrome, constantly creating new locations just to spice up the world. The danger of expanding territory and location too fast is that the world will become like a balloon, inflated but lacks substance. This is called a wild world and is the chief reason for inconsistencies in fictional worlds. I would suggest to build slow and develop that small area, creating connections and seeing how everything can affect everything else. This would lead you to crafting a more tall world. Building taller than wider is always a good idea. But I get it, it can be boring for a few people. We world build to see new lands, so we just love to keep creating them. However, just keep in mind to have a balance between growing wide and growing tall. Or you can just go super tall and just stick to a single concept and develop the hell out of it. Like Magic in Great Britain, Boo, Harry Potter. Check out the fictional worlds from the media around you. Usually the smaller worlds, like the ones in soft fantasy, have layers built upon them, while larger scale worlds can sometimes feel empty despite their scale. If you somehow inflated your world too far, like me, my current solution is to set the borders of the world, both in terms of land area as well as establishing the beginning and the end of the world. So kinda like having a Ragnarok event from Norse mythology. Now that I capped off the world, both in terms of space and time, I would have to grow inward. And so far, it's still fun, stringing together information and seeking truth, kinda like a detective. So let's talk about this scale of my world that I've been talking about. Just like my inspiration, the DC multiverse, having several layers of worlds, each a universe of its own, the skeleton of a universe that I have created has 6 main planes of existence, which I call the wraps. Now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I should rename this as well. The first wrap. This is your basic plane, your physical world, your vanilla. It contains the local multiverses containing the near infinite amount of Earths and the grand empire that rules over it. This is where most of my stories occur, focusing on the battle between the empire and other forces that wish to topple it down. Whether this empire is good or bad kinda depends on whose side of the story we are in and who we compare it to, as I usually place all of my organizations in a spectrum of moral and immoral. But I digress. Other locations in my physical world would be the Abyss, the remnant of the ancient world outside the multiverse that's bordered by ancient mechanisms known as the Desolation Clocks. Moving on, the second wrap is known as the Astellar. The name is a mix between the word astral and stellar, and is pretty much the spirit world. And of course, it has everything that a spiritual world comes with: an overworld like plane, an underground labyrinth for FTL travel that can also lead to the afterlife, and underneath a Dante like underworld, all to entrap the first murderer. How fun! This is currently what I am expanding on at the recording of this video. Then we have the third wrap. The third wrap is the void or the basin of reality. When I picture it, I would imagine like this big black plate and everything else is sitting on top of it. It is what holds the rest of reality and keeps it afloat. It is the realm of concepts where the struggle of fate versus free will lies and true time and space exists. The fourth wrap is the realm of sand and is divided to the realm of imagination, ruled by the figurehead known as the Sandman with his children known as the Phantom Dolls. And on the other side, it contains the realm of memories, where all the dead goes after navigating the labyrinth. The fourth wrap sits on top of a spherical mechanism known as the Inklover's shell. It is a structure that encapsulates the first, second, and parts of the third wrap within it. It is what borders reality from fantasy. Beyond the edge of the fourth wrap, also known as the far horizon, the fifth wrap is known as the etheric plane. It is a realm where all other possible realms are condensed into one, turning it into the realm of possibilities. This is actually just another way for me to not be tempted to create new planes of existence and overinflate the world even more. But let's see how I can make this look like it was all according to plan when I get to developing this part of the world. If the first to third wraps show what is, or reality, and the fourth wrap showing dreams, aka what could be, and regret, what could have been, then the first to fourth wraps together presents every possibility possible. The fifth wrap then shows the impossible. That's why it's called the realm of possibilities. It is also the realm of the gods and is currently very undeveloped. I think I have just said everything I know about this wrap. So, yeah. With the amount of loopholes in this plane, it would be very exciting to navigate through the storm in the near future. I mean, seriously, I kinda have an addiction for resolving loopholes. The sixth and final wrap is called the Daikirim, a region that separated itself at the moment of creation. It is divided to the actual Daikirim, which is basically a weaponized version of the Akashic records, and the Fulcrum, also known as Akasha, where the magic that created this reality lies. So that's basically a bird's eye view of the world that I'm building. In these planes, I plan to make each of their structures a little bit different from each other, like how the physical vanilla plane plays with higher dimensions as a way to navigate through them, while the stellar plays with several layers of over and under worlds. I suggest you do the same. Having repeating cities, countries, and world, and the only difference is a paint job, is not very interesting. Aside from having different structures for each wrap, I also have specific inspiration for them, which can help on differentiating their designs or their key philosophies. My advice to you is not to worry if they're going to be too incongruent. Artists can have different references, but their style will remain the same. Now that I'm thinking about this, I will probably make some kind of setting or cultural mood boards for each wrap in Pinterest. If it works, I'll get back to you. If it doesn't work, I'll still probably get back to you. If you're really worried about the uniformity of your world, then you can set a central theme and work within those boundaries. So to talk about my inspiration for each wraps, my physical vanilla world is mainly based from science fiction. Uh, the second wrap, the Stellar, is based more from Western mythology, so like Greek, Roman, Norse gods and their versions of heaven and the afterlife. The third, which is the Void, is based from the deep sea with all the beautiful creatures living in them, and Lovecraft, which also have beautiful living creatures in them. The fourth wrap, the Realm of Sands, is based on fairies and English folklore. This is something that I'm quite interested in getting into because I feel like it's quite different. The original direction of the Realm of Sand is quite opposite to the idea of fairy tales. So I'm also excited to grow that idea. The Realm of Possibilities, the etheric plane, is based from a utopia and pagan religions. And finally, the Daikirim is a mix between heaven, or at least architecture with super white concrete, and probably the Matrix. Yeah, that's going to be a work in progress. What I love about this world structure is the abundance of races and magic systems I can create. By having a diverse set of realities, each can inspire different cultures that can only adapt to such climates, as well as magic systems that are built around or to break the rules of that realm. That can be a video for a different day. I think this is a good overview of my world, of the protagonists, of the pantheons, of the warring factions, and all the beautiful characters can all wait. I just want to show you a possible structure of a fictional world and how I will use it to expand from a skeleton of world to an interconnected universe. My goal for this channel is to document all of my success and failure in trying to create a world. So if I can pull this off, then I can give you guys everything that I have done to pull this off. If I don't pull this off, then at least I can show you what I did and what you can do differently. Well, if this video inspired you to create your world, you can check out my previous video on how to start a world from scratch. And kind of like an assignment, you can check out what stories you love and you can check out what kind of structure that world is. If you fancy that kind of structure, maybe you can emulate your world from that structure, like how I did with the DC Multiverse. Next video would be about character creation. And next week, same day, would be a direct how-to on world building. But if you're interested in my world, I will be sharing it again as a case study the week after that. So if you're interested, you know what to do. This is Joe Bayani, hoping you get your world created. Love you all. Bye-bye.